Good stuff. Right. Good morning, guys and girls. Welcome to our industry focused webinar, Overcoming Data Challenges in the Financial Services. We have a broad audience this morning covering ground across the FSI, including insurance, banking, and capital markets. So with the time we have, we'll be doing our best to overcome the commonalities that fall within these industries and ensure you all leave with meaningful insights and follow-ups. I do encourage, and we actually all the time encourage our attendees to ask questions in the Q&A. And if we don't get to them immediately, we have time at the end. The recording is in flight and will be available afterwards, as will the slides. And these will be uploaded and shared likely early next week. Though if you're desperate for them, do please say, and I'm sure we can turn something around a little quicker. Firstly, and Adam, if you'd like to move us to the next slide, brilliant. Before I do run through today's speakers and agenda, I'd like to quickly cover who Cloud Direct are, as I'm conscious there are many new names in attendance. Here at Cloud Direct, we're known for doing one thing, and that's brilliantly. We like to think so anyway. We exist to deliver fast, secure cloud solutions to transform and fortify your business, in turn empowering growth. Our job is to understand what growth means to you and your business and work back from there. Always starting with the business challenges you're aiming to overcome. Currently, one of the UK's fastest growing Microsoft partners, which positions us in the top 1% globally. We've been in business for over 20 plus years. However, haven't always been a dedicated Microsoft partner. That decision was made in 2014, so just over 10 years ago. And in 2017, we were part of the first cohort of Microsoft Azure Expert MSPs and have held that status since. This accreditation, along with many other dedicated advanced specializations, including data and AI, has helped position us, as I say, in the top 1% of the partners globally. I'll come on to this so what, if you like, later in the webinar, because it's always great to see all these accreditations, but from your side of things, it's understanding so what, why do we care? I'm more than happy to cover that slightly towards the end. Geographically, we're split between the UK and SA, with around 300 members of staff, mainly technical, covering the many solution areas of the stack in both design, implementation, but also crucially transition into service and ongoing operational excellence. That was a real whistle stop, by the way, because I'm keen to get into the crux of the webinar. If anybody has any questions or specifics around us as a partner, do please shout and I'll be happy to answer. I'm thrilled this morning to be joined by the following crew, which includes Sagar Joshi from Microsoft, Jonathan Ball from 7am, a leading investment management firm and platform provider in the wealth management space. And last but not least, my colleague Dan Knott from Cloud Direct. We split the webinar down into 3 sessions. Sagar will be providing an update from Microsoft on how they see the current data challenges and use cases within FSI. Jonathan will be talking about the journey 7am currently find themselves on to improve and overcome their data challenges. And Dan will have the job of trying to stitch this all together and talk about how you can start or continue the journey with the tools and solutions which are now available. So without further ado, I'll pass over to Sagar to kindly cover the first part of, well, certainly the first session in the webinar.
Thank you, Henry, and good morning to everyone. My name is Sagar Joshi, and I am a data apps and AI specialist at Microsoft. So what I do is I talk to customers about their data applications and AI modernization challenges. My sole focus is FSI. So, banking, capital markets, and insurance is what we're going to cover today, and bring some insights into what are some of the challenges, trends, use cases that we see in the industry, which could be relevant to your organization when you look at your business data and are thinking what to do with it. So what we'll do is we'll probably start with what are the challenges in each of the industry. I've broken down scenarios by capital markets, insurance, and banking. So let's start with capital markets. What are some of the challenges that our customers see with their business data? First of all, it's fragmented and siloed data. You can imagine over a period of time, our customers might have invested into various systems for various purposes, and that sort of leads sometimes into data crawl, infrastructure inefficiencies, and then it sort of becomes difficult to tie that up together for decision making. The other challenge that we are seeing in the capital markets is your clients who are, let's say, investors or people who invest into the market are they have more expectations now in terms of their digital journey, and having a solid data foundation is something that they're looking at, and for you it's really critical to deliver those services to them. Then what we've seen is additional risk and compliance requirements. It's an ever-changing space. In some countries, they change by state. In some areas, it's mostly in a geographical zone, but you have to keep up to date with those as well. So, for example, if you do business in Europe, you might be required to be compliant with DORA, which is an upcoming, regulation. Things like that could be some of the challenges that you deal with. And then dealing with that change, you need a robust platform again to sort of take your organization there as a target state. And lastly, there's always a focus on how the solutions that you use for your clients, for your customers, be more sustainable in the longer run. And that is how cloud platforms can bring in that additional value in terms of how do we look at that portfolio, and how can you develop those solutions on a sustainable stack. Then we'll jump into some of the challenges that are there in our insurance space. Appreciate some of you might be from investment banking, or now we're focusing on insurance. Again, in insurance, customer demands are sort of scaling. The ways people or organizations want to process claims, and then you have to also keep in touch with what are the global risks, and with the data sort of sprawl across the states, social media, you need to have everything into one location to make a conscious decision on how do you assess risk and then plan for the future. Thirdly, we've seen organizations, sort of invest in systems, but there could be gaps in the actual business processes. Specifically for insurance, there could be gaps in their claims and underwriting processes. And having a solid data platform is really important for you to really either process claims faster or, process them more accurately, just to avoid any issues going forward in the future. That's some of the data challenges in insurance. When we come to banking, they're not all that different, but there is a similar undercurrent of theme. Massive volumes of data in disparate formats. This goes back to the siloed data formats that we talked about. And there's this data segregation and fragmentation, because banking, again, there are various departments. So one is loans department, other could be insurance, and how do we marry that data, which is again regulated through various compliance and regulations. We have seen banking customers invest over a period of time into legacy systems, and some of those technologies may be not compatible with the latest cloud platform or cloud scale analytics platforms. So how do you deal with those challenges, bringing them into the modern data platform so that you can achieve, let's say, bank of the future, which is digital and powered by AI? Then the next scenario that we're talking about is securing personal and financial data. You need a platform where you can easily configure, secure the data of your clients and customers. It could be personally identifiable information or sensitive information like investments and obviously bank accounts. So you need to be confident that the platform which is serving or processing that data has the controls and processes in place to secure that kind of information. And lastly, again, being a heavily regulated industry, banking that is, you need to ensure that you can implement changes faster, right? So if you've invested in technologies which are legacy or they're unable to keep up with latest technological innovations, there's going to be a challenge moving at that pace and sort of innovating or matching the customer expectations. And again, when it's time for change with regulatory compliances, a platform which is able to flexibly allow you to incorporate changes is really necessary for you to be, let's say, implement changes in time, for example, because some of the regulations have time frame associated with them. So these are some of the challenges that we see in the FSI space where data is either siloed or the platforms and technologies. I can cover in this one slide what are the common use cases across all of these three verticals that we see in terms of what solutions our customers are looking at, right? So when we talk about challenges, now we talk about solutions. So first is enhanced client analytics. Your organization may be looking at developing a solution or purchasing a solution where you could have a single pane of glass to manage the client data and then derive analytics from it. And again, going back to the challenges, if the systems are legacy, they're disparate, you're going to have a lot of efforts put into to get there. Then comes market and investment research, which is very critical if you're looking at investing, into portfolios, and maybe you need to make recommendations to your clients. How do you get a platform which is scalable on the cloud, and maybe you're wanting to run AI on top of it to make recommendations to your client? The data has to be sorted. It has to be, validated, clean, and then ready for decision making. So that's where another solution about market investment and research can come into play. The third is how do you achieve risk and compliance? You might be looking at solutions which will help you to address risk and analytics compliance. For that, again, a cloud scale platform is necessary where you could bring all the data, which is structured and unstructured. As I said, there could be events happening which increase risk, but you need to make a decision. And lastly, it's important that your workforce is productive when they're looking at reporting, making recommendations to your clients. They need real-time insights into those recommendations. So how do you get a system where you can have a streamlined business operations? So these are some of the use cases that we see in the FSI space where you are looking at solutions in this area. And the answer potentially could be Microsoft Fabric. Now, we've put in a lot of research over the years and released a new platform. It was actually announced in 2023 called as Microsoft Fabric. We've had various solutions over a period of time, which helps you to ingest data, do ETL, and also store and report on that data. But Fabric gives you one unified platform, like one single storage, one single compute, one single repository to report your business data and make decisions. So we have simplified the storage capacities, how you ingest data, how you store data. The experience is unified where, data engineers and analysts can all be can work collaboratively in this one space. Unified governance for you to be applying those controls and security policies on top of data, who gets to access it and how it's processed. And obviously a unified business model where basically we simplify pricing for you in terms of how do you purchase, use, or consume this product. And my colleague here, Dan, will talk about the platform in detail at length during the later part of the session. For now, I'll hand it over to John.
Thank you. And thank you to Cloud Direct for inviting me to talk to you all today. So as it says on the slide there, I'm Jonathan Ball. I'm the Group Data Architect here at 7IM. If you could just jump forward for me a little bit, Adam, one slide. I'm going to talk today about some of the things that we've been doing within 7IM over the last year or so in collaboration with our partners here, Cloud Direct, about how we're moving forward with our data maturity, taking a look at some of the capabilities that we're adding through things like governance, the approach that we're taking for modernization and migration to the cloud, and then a short kind of few examples of where we want to be with our future state and really why it is that we're doing all of these things. So just a quick little bit of background about me. Jonathan Ball, as I said, I'm the Group Data Architect, been here a bit over a year now at 7IM. Before that, I've been out in industry, decades of work, as the white beard usually shows. but I've worked in financial services, I've worked in other industries as well, so got a broad spectrum there, but predominantly working on data products, data projects from a transformation, but looking at not just the technology, but also people and processes as well. That's why when I talk about things like governance, the technology is obviously the founding kind of framework and the pillars that you can base things on, but you need good processes and people and things like training and stuff like that need to go along with the modernization approaches as well. You've got to take everybody on this journey to make it a success. So 7IM itself, as we kind of mentioned quickly by Henry at the beginning, we're a wealth management business. We have a platform that is used by many financial advisors to look after the assets for their customers. So our customers are both advisors, so businesses, as well as clients. So it's quite an interesting kind of dynamic there. We have billions of pounds of assets under management. So when I talk about AUM, I'm talking about kind of we hold this for those clients on behalf of the advisors. So the advisors will come in, they'll do their trades, they'll look after the actual client information. We've got big growth plans for the platform and assets under management as a whole. We do both kind of as a group, we hold the platform, but we've also got advisors of our own. We were recently, I say about a year ago, acquired by the Ontario Teachers Pension Plan, OTPP, which is a Canadian kind of collection of the Ontario's. It says on the tin, Ontario Teachers, it's their pension plan, and they invest and make use of that pot of money to invest in businesses, and they've invested in 7IM, and they're fully supporting the kind of large growth targets that we've got, and therefore kind of supporting the actual transformation program that we're on to facilitate that growth and to make sure that we've got the kind of the scale there to be able to deal with the data volumes and if you like, the utilization and usage volumes of our platform when we want to double that AUM, triple that AUM in the future. We need to make sure that we've got the technical capability to do that, and we need to be able to do that without doubling headcount, if you like. You want to be able to scale in people and processes, and as I said before, kind of the underpinning part to that is the technology that we're kind of investing in. So in terms of data maturity, as I said, it's a multi-year transformation program. We're not looking at completely we're not moving to a different type of platform. What we're doing is improving our platform. As I said, a couple of the key reasons for that is to ensure we've got that scale for growth. We want to invest in our actual platform, what the users of our technology actually see, so that there's a lot of investment in kind of improving user journeys within the platform, the look and feel, all of that good stuff, making it a modern and advanced program so that we can stay at the front of the pack. We're very often kind of in the top threes when you talk about these platforms. We want to stay there. We want to be number one. Sometimes we are, sometimes we're not, but where we're not, we absolutely want to be number one. So the investment is there to support that. And then we're also building out this capability to, I mean, as Sagar mentioned there, regulation, it's a heavily regulated industry, as I'm sure we all know, and making sure that our risk and compliance team, everybody kind of within 7IM is part of the risk and compliance team, but our head of risk and compliance is a strong kind of supporter of this transformation program. And one of the key things there for him and the rest of the team is to make sure that we can get the access to the data, but get access to the data historically as well, and be able to prove that we're doing things when regulations come in and advice and guidance around things like consumer duty of care. We're able to deliver that information. We know that we've got it, we know that we do it, but it's being able to prove that to out to the FCA, and making sure that you've got, again, the modern platform to be able to do that, to put the analytics in front of the people that talk to the regulators, to put the information in front of our relationship managers that are talking to the advisors and the clients as well, and say, look, we see the data, we know where we're supporting you, And when we've got vulnerable clients, being able to make sure that we've got kind of, the correct processes to make sure that their data is taken care of as well. So visualization and making sure that's all kind of there. And kind of one of the other key reasons just is clearly about getting to the forefront of the data in a controlled and governed way so that we can take advantage of all these new advanced analytics capabilities. That everybody, all of kind of the board is like, what do we do with AI? Well, we are doing things with AI, but we don't want to be doing that if the data is not clean and visible and available to people. So you need to make sure that you've got that kind of grounding there. So yeah, Adam, if you could move on for me a little bit. I think the key thing that I've always stressed as soon as I kind of whoever I talk to in any industry, in any business historically, but especially when I joined 7IM, is that we want to advance, we want to be improving, we want to be doing all of this new stuff, but we need to make sure that we're doing all of this modernization in a controlled and governed way. I know Sagar kind of mentioned there about kind of combining the governance in the platform. The governance is much more than the technology. The governance includes kind of putting in capabilities for the whole of the business, people, processes, as I said, training, all of that there. So I've listed a few of them out here. When I talk about enablers, what I'm talking about is actually making owners of the data. So our approach to this from a 7IM perspective is that we've got steering groups. So there's very much a strategy group for data specifically. We've got people on the board. I talk about my risk and compliance. Our chief risk and compliance officer, he sits on that and is kind of a main component of supporting what we need to do within the business. It's making sure that we can enable everybody to do what they need to do, but in that sensible, safe and secure way. So risk and compliance at the forefront of that. We're enabling the rest of the business by putting together centers of what I start with, centers of enablement that later on become your center of excellence. So you get different areas of the business involved in these. You can start those with the technology. We started it with Power BI was used within the business, but we created the center of enablement, which becomes a center of excellence once everybody in the business has got kind of the understandings of the basics of data visualization, how to tell a story with data, what the actual data actually is there as well. The second one there is empowering the business areas. As I talked about, it's kind of making sure that you train the trainers, if you like. You get those champions in the different parts of the business and you enable them with key technologies like Power BI. Obviously, I talk about that one because that's the visualization area. That's what people see. But then making sure that our ops department, our finance teams, our intermediary, our sales teams have got access to that data, and so that they can self-service themselves in the future on data that's clean and curated and has been kind of approved for people's use. And there's an owner of it. So you talk about historically data stewards, data owners. The business should own the data. They're the experts on it. We just need to facilitate it being cleansed and in the right structure for them to do that. And then lastly, that data quality, making sure that if there are issues with your data, and let's be frank, everybody's got issues with their data somewhere. Most of us wouldn't be in a job if it was that easy to keep it clean. But actually making sure that that's visible. As long as you know that there's a problem with that particular data, you can actually start doing something about it, but then actually you can present it out to those business areas and business users to say this data is 90% clean. We know there's some small issues with it, but if you're looking at it from a market perspective, that's okay. If you're looking at it in a micro perspective, then you need to make sure that you're actually dealing with the clean and appropriate stuff. But actually putting that data out, facilitating that you've got these clean reports, you've got data sets, machine learning models that are endorsed and available for everybody to use. Adam, please. Thank you. And so how are we actually doing this as well? So we're doing it in a controlled and governed way, as I just said there, but what we're actually doing is we're modernizing our platform, we're modernizing our technology. So we're doing that, we are migrating to the cloud, but we're not doing right from the start. We're not doing what's called a lift and shift. We're not just taking what we've got in our existing on-premises and moving to the cloud. For one, that doesn't give you great efficiency gains. but what it does give you is a very large bill. So we're actually taking the time to kind of look at the tools and the technologies that we use and saying that's fit for purpose. Using sometimes it's called kind of the 5 R's approach, sometimes it's called 6 R's, depends who you speak to, but thinking about whether or not you need to re-architect, re-engineer, and all of those other ones, obviously depending on who you talk to. We're looking at taking advantage of absolutely kind of all in on the cloud and all in with Microsoft Azure technologies, also kind of the M365 suite, which I'm sure my colleagues on the call can talk about all of those things in more detail, but actually taking advantage of the modern capabilities. Really, we've got an internal development capability, very good. Has been looking after, I don't want to say legacy too much, but they've been looking after our existing platform, our on-premises technologies, and they're really kind of really enthused and really excited to be kind of moving to the modern technology so that they can adopt these capabilities quicker, and then we can improve our platform to be best in class, and we can do that rapidly. So alongside the technology, we're also kind of using agile methodologies to get that rapid development and delivery. From a data perspective, we're modernizing the data platform. Our operational data platforms are up to date, but we will take advantage of the cloud for that, the ability to scale up and then scale down, when it's quiet times as well. There's also benefit there. We're looking very much at Lakehouse kind of architecture for our modern data platform. A lot of work going into that as well, just again making sure that we can get the data to the right consumers of the data in a clean and appropriate way. As I said, adopting kind of the best in class technology and the ability to fail fast and then move on if we need to, or fail fast, learn, and then try something new with maybe a different technology within the cloud as well. Obviously, Microsoft on the call, they will absolutely talk about Fabric. We have other technologies that we use as well, but all within Azure as well. They have the partner ecosystem there. When you talk about kind of the technologies that we use, Power BI is at the front of that from a visualization perspective, but then we've got kind of our data lake storage, which is adopting Microsoft components, things like Data Factory, which is part of Fabric, but also the ability to bring in things like Databricks as well, who Microsoft are a partner with as well. So lots of kind of options there, which is always good. And then finally, on the kind of modernization and migration approach is knowing when to retire things. I think the acceptance that things will be retired as well. So it's understanding that we can leave things behind in our on-premises to, I don't want to say to wither and die, but you take the priority parts of an application, a solution, we move those, we modernize those, and get the biggest bang for our buck when actually moving all of those things forwards. And Adam, if you can just kind of jump to the end there for me, just to highlight that ideally what we're moving to is a modern operating model for data, including all of our operational data as well as our analytics capability, but really putting the investment into providing those data capabilities utilizing Azure, and then skilling up our internal teams, working with partners such as Cloud Direct to actually facilitate a lot of this. Cloud Direct's been fantastic in getting our landing zones up within Azure, and then helping us to kind of streamline our approaches for deployment within the cloud as well. That's a big advantage to us, is being able to get quicker releases. If the market changes rapidly, we need to be able to change with it as well. And great amount of work going into kind of that rapid development and deployment, continuous integration, continuous deployment, all of those good things. But really, as I say, kind of improving the technical capabilities in 7IM. We are constantly improving, and we are very lucky to have the investment from boards, champions within the business, from our parent company OTPP, to actually invest in all of this. So putting the data skills in front of everybody will help us and facilitate us with the kind of that analytics and AI adoption in a secure and governed way. And I'll pass on to Dan there. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. And thank you, Adam. If you just build a slide out, please, Adam. So I guess what we've heard for the two speakers previously is whether the journey's going, how it's gone, and also some of the capabilities and challenges that we've seen in the industry. So we sort of start where and understand how Fabric can help here. Let's, one of the biggest challenges, and I think JB was pointing it out around the silos of data that exist, whether that's different systems, applications, etc., that all need to be integrated together. So one of the biggest challenges that organizations face is bringing that data together. In terms of understanding how Fabric can help around that, Fabric has the ability to bring data from all various sources, even other cloud providers, and using capabilities to ingest that and bring that into one lake, and then using a variety of tools then to cleanse that data. So it's trusted, it's an accurate and modeled for consumption, whether that's analytics or whether that's AI or machine learning. And I think JB, you made a good point there about having that trust in that data to be able to then consume for analytical purposes, but also for AI and machine learning down the road as well. You then have, in terms of the volume of data, there's lots of pockets of data, and it then becomes very, complex to try and manage that data estate, having the ability to, start small, scale, and have that performance as you need it. With Fabric, you have the ability then to scale. One lake will store the data, and then you've got the ability to scale with different capacities within Fabric to, meet the growing needs of the business and manage that data, and obviously offer the performance to the needs of the requirements of whether it's an AI use case or whether it's an analytical or operational reporting use case. I think we all are aware of the governance and compliance. That's from a regulatory perspective, it can be difficult to manage your data when there's lots of data around. So having that ability to understand what data you do have, cataloging that data, and within Fabric, you have the ability to do exactly that. You can catalog your data, you can understand the data assets, and you can also, outside of the standard features of Fabric, there are other tools like Microsoft Purview, which will also enhance that governance and compliance model around the data as well to ensure that it's trusted, it's accurate, and also that will enable the adoption of Fabric and analytics, using Power BI, having that trust in that data, but also from a compliance perspective, doing the regulatory reporting that's needed, ensuring that the data is trusted, secure, and understood as to the data that's being consumed as well. And last but not least is it's the complexity as well. Understanding the tools that are available, using these tools in different ways. Power BI is a great, advocate there of breaking those boundaries, but equally as well within Fabric, you have the ability to, utilize some of the, tools that are maybe more familiar like SQL, but also you can utilize tools from a technical perspective like Python, notebooks, Scala, etc., to create there in a modern approach as well. So you have the hybrid of using the technical skills, but equally from the business side, you have the ability to use intuitive tools like Power BI that are widely understood, especially with the Excel background that is most commonly used in industry. Adam, would you be so kind to move to the next slide? In terms of building this out, Fabric is an element of the Microsoft Intelligent Data Platform. So within that, data is at the hub, and around that data, it is security and governance to ensure that it's, trusted, it's secure from threat, and also understood in that it enables, those use cases that we've got there on the right, analytical use cases, AI, machine learning use case, the platform, so serving the technology. So a lot of organizations will have moved to the cloud or maybe have a hybrid approach of different vendors or on premise. So bringing that data from different platforms, and then obviously having that operational aspect as well. So whether that's operational company performance there, but equally as well, having that governed approach in terms of how you're going to ingest the data, consume it, and use it for different use cases. And this really sort of encapsulates around, first and foremost, making sure that there's governance and trusted in that data. So if you are consuming that data for various use cases, there's a trust. Then around that, using that data for transformative analytics. And by that, that's really then saying, well, the data's trusted. We can now use the tools of the Microsoft Intelligent Data Platform, and Fabric fits within that, is model that and then consume that data, for the business to then, make intelligent led decisions. And what we also want around that is efficiencies and standards, and that sort of relates back to JB's point earlier in having a governed way of bringing that data, transforming that data, and then having a standard approach that you use to ingest the data, transform, consume, and wrapped around that with governance. It really then starts to first and foremost provide trust and reliability to the data, so it becomes more consumable, which in turn helps that data-driven culture of using data for those ways of working and those processes that predominantly may be semi-manual today, by extracting data from various sources, and different people, different processes end up with different results, which can often be challenging when trying to understand the trust and consume data to make these decisions. Fabric as well stitches all that together. It enables you to have an integrated data estate. So the ability to ingest data, to consume data, to use it for AI-driven insights, and even have the ability to have real-time data coming in as well as batch-led data, a whole host of data that can come in, and it's then providing that scalability and that robustness around that. So like I say, it can be consumed for the variety of use cases that data and AI can serve. And I guess just to sort of wrap that up, it enables, the capability of your organization to go on that journey from start to end, look at, consuming that data first and foremost, but then, looking towards them as you mature and you consume more of that data and have more trust in that data, having that innovation platform where you can start to build out ML models, consume AI platforms, chatbots, ChatGPT as an example of integrating that and providing portals for your customers to consume that data. It provides the innovation platform as well. If you'd be ever so kind, Adam, just to sort of move on. And in terms of using Microsoft Fabric to innovate, there's lots of ways in which you can innovate, but I guess there's sort of calling out 4 key areas here. Bringing that data together, so the different silos of data, understanding, and getting that intelligent insight around your customers, the portfolios, managing that data in a single source, and having that secured, governed, so that it can be consumed, and then you can get intelligent-led insights around performance, maybe portfolios, customer analysis, and you can understand your customers and the transactional aspects of data around there. The second aspect there is to look at the AI models, really sort of building out in readiness for AI. This data needs to be trusted, it needs to be modeled and consumed and centralized. But then building out these AI models, whether that's chatbots or producing mobile apps, that data needs to be trusted. That data then needs to be able to be integrated to allow you then to build out AI models, that machine learning models, to maybe do forecasting on that, so you're doing forecasting on reliable data. Or if you are using AI chatbots, or you've got a portal that is consuming AI technology, that the answers that it's giving are trusted and reliable, and that it's not giving misinformation based on the data that you have stored within Fabric. And then the last one is that data culture piece of giving data that's trusted, but also making sure that the tools that you are providing are able to be intuitive. They can lead intelligent led decisions around data, and they can be provide access to enable that data driven culture. So that is a end byproduct of having the trust and bringing that data together to then make it more consumable for a variety of use cases. Adam, would you be so good to move me on, please? And in terms of how Microsoft Fabric enables that, we start on the left-hand side there around that sort of complete analytics platform. So there are a variety of tools within the Microsoft ecosystem. It's bringing those tools together in a unified approach, that we can have that unified data platform that can ingest data, transform data, model that data, use Power BI within that as well, and visualize that data, as well as then outside of that, extending that further with AI and machine learning model as well at the box. So you've got a lot of capability all within under the hood. That offers cost efficiencies if you're buying that separately and piecing that together, And obviously as well, it provides it all embedded in one platform, which really does emphasize the security and governance that can be encapsulated around that. I think from a Microsoft Fabric perspective, sorry, Adam, from a from a sort of OneLake perspective, I think that's really kind of one of the biggest sort of game-changing aspects with where Microsoft Fabric really comes into its own. So simplifying that data management, having the ability to bring data from various sources, like I say, structured, unstructured, real-time, batch, bringing that all together in a centralized repository that then can be consumed via the different workloads that can be, built within Fabric. It integrates the data platform. We've heard how it, can integrate with Microsoft ecosystem as well. So the other services that you may be running within the Microsoft ecosystem, it integrates very well there in the collaboration with tools like Teams and maybe Copilot, all, enhancing that collaboration. But where OneLake really comes into its own is the ability to, do shortcuts and mirroring as an example. So, rather than having to write complex ETLs that, might have taken several weeks to develop and test and validate, data can be, left where it is, but virtually shown in that OneLake and consumed as if it was physically there. So really powerful tool there around, getting that data and that time to value, sort of driving that. And then it sort of comes over to then empowering those business users. So tools like Power BI, very familiar, using the Microsoft Dynamics 365 ecosystem. So embedding that into Office, Teams, and really, you can quite quickly ingest that data, transform that data, and then model that and serve that out within Power BI. Yes, there's a whole host of, making sure that data is right, governed and a practical way of building that out. However, you can quite quickly get through some, big barriers there in getting insight around the data. And last but not least, having that AI readiness that, you have Copilot available within Fabric if you've got an F64 SKU or higher, but, that will help with productivity around building out maybe notebooks and code around the different elements of Fabric. And then you've also got that ability for AI readiness as well. So you can consume that data then for Gen AI and, other areas of data that might need to be consumed outside of Fabric as well. If you could just move forward, Adam, thank you very much. So in terms of what does Microsoft Fabric look like under the hood? So you've got, starting from left to right, you've got data factory and data engineering, which are very much the tools to enable you to ingest data, from the variety of sources. Then you need to model that data and serve that data. So this is where the data warehouse comes in, and then you've got lakehouse capability around that as well. And then you've got the data science where you can then, maybe build out machine learning models, forecasting models, and then, you have the ability to also bring in real-time data sources within that, and then serve that data out with Power BI. So in terms of how does that look, and how can you sort of make that relatable? You can see on the left-hand side, data factory, for instance, you can bring the data in from different sources, line of business applications. Sorry, I haven't gone forward too much. Third-party data, market data, client databases, transactions. You can bring all that data together, and then that data needs to be, in a governed and structured way. But you need like cleansing routines, your standardizations of that data, tagging that data, classifying that data, and then obviously transforming that into a state that then can be modeled, maybe build out into a data warehouse. So this is where the data warehouse comes in, and then having that centralized repository for where data can be consumed for analytical reports by the business. It might be that you want to do some segmentation and building out the cost management, risk analysis. There's different use cases, and we'll come on to a little bit around use cases shortly. And then from there, we want to start to use the data, maybe in a more data science way of looking at fraud detections, demand in forecasting, maybe natural language processing. You really are quite keen to go past this slide. And then around there, we then obviously, if we need to as well, we looked at data factory. We've got real-time intelligence there of bringing maybe market trading data in at real time, issues around compliance, risk. All of that can then be ingested and modeled and transformed. And then Power BI is really the tool in the end that then serves that data out. So it might be that you're looking at building out a customer portal. It might be that you're doing fund analysis or compliance reporting. Again, there's lots of scope here in terms of where Fabric can help and support your business. From the top level outside of Fabric, you can then start to then embed chatbots so it can interrogate the data that you've ingested into OneLake. You can then maybe build out a customer portal where they can go and access and look at their funds. Or it might be that you start embedding sort of chatbots, customer service around there as well. So it really does provide a solid base and platform with secure, trusted data to then serve that for the different areas that, or using the different tools to serve different areas of the business. And how does that look from an architecture perspective? If you could be so kind to move forward. So high level reference architecture, using the tools that we've highlighted previously, bringing that data into OneLake, having that medallion architecture to, read that raw data, enrich that data, curate that data, and have that model then serve out to Power BI, but then using tools like data science and data engineering, for instance, within there to really, enrich that and sort of bring that forward-thinking use of data. So this isn't a hard and fast architecture, but like I think JB, you've got Databricks in your estate as an example. Databricks can also embed within Fabric, so maybe you can write the data pipelines, you store data in OneLake, use Fabric, consume Databricks notebooks, and then and maybe other services as well that potentially might be used. So AI search, AI cognitive services as an example. So lots of other services that in the ecosystem that can also be integrated into this flow and architecture as well. I'll let you go on to the next slide, please, Adam. So in terms of how does Microsoft Fabric enable business value, sort of 6 key areas really sort of to draw out. Having that trust and that reliable data enables better decision making. Fundamentally, it's that age-old saying of rubbish in, rubbish out. And with trust in that data enables a more effective use of data within the business. That data culture really sort of thrives because data is trusted. And also around that, you need improved efficiency. So data needs to be readily available. If data isn't available, there's often a case of out of date, stale data that's consumed, or data is extracted in a manual way. So from there, that obviously impacts decision number one. But decision number two, having the tools that can bring that data in a centralized repository as improved efficiencies and that time to the data, having access to the data and that timely approach really does then, help a business value because it increases productivity. It means we've not got siloed behaviors going outside of, governed processes, and the data is entrusted. It then also helps with innovation. So whether that's new products and services, it gives you that platform that you can basically solid platform to build from, consume that trusted data for analytical purposes, AI purposes, but even new services such as a customer portal or AI chatbots, again, really sort of innovating there around. And that also then leads to business performance. So in terms of that engagement, the collaboration within the different departments, because often the same data is used in a variety of ways. It's just used and consumed slightly different to see different perspectives. So having that ability of trust in that data and the ability then to collaborate with different teams, and that will obviously aid, in a better performance, but also return on investment, investing in tools like Fabric and other tools within the Microsoft ecosystem, these data engagements, they need a return on investment. It's answering that so what question of what are we doing and why should we do it and where is it going to add value? So being strategic around those use cases, which I'll come on to shortly, will obviously help with the return on investment, and simplifying that data estate really does help with the cost reduction in comparison to some of the other tools that potentially might be out there being consumed within the Microsoft ecosystem and outside of the Microsoft ecosystem. I'll let you move on to the next slide, Adam. And it's just coming. So in terms of use cases, and this isn't a complete list, this is a sample set of use cases across different areas of the business in which Fabric can be used. when you are deciding on use cases, it's really good to have that ideation session around, where in the business can we start small and fundamentally find those high value, low effort implementation as areas of the business that can show value very quickly, because some of these use cases it might require some complexity thinking around how we're going to approach this, and also it might have some dependencies, i.e. some modernization in terms of data platforms or other aspects and prerequisites that are needed to be done first. But realistically, breaking down into small chunks and looking at various ways in which, like I said, it covers a whole vast of capability and functionality across Fabric to support that, but just gives you an idea and a flavor of where Fabric can support in building out those use cases for your business. And if you would be so kind to move forward. And in terms of just building out that, you've got the use cases in terms of starting, like I say, having that prioritized use case. And around that is really looking at some core principles around that use case. So the enablement, i.e. the people and the culture, the process and tools, aka the governance, and then it's designing that platform, for the scalability as we go into the other phases. But having that pilot, starting small, and that, get those set of that defined use case to start with, but having those group of other use cases that you can then build out a roadmap and an approach in which you're going to iterate and then go through to that second phase, building out those use cases, that roadmap, deploying the technology further, integrating into the wider ecosystem, and maybe and building that out, and also the adoption as well. So you've got the real aspects at this point of building that platform, and then you're going over into production where you're going to monitor and enhance that. You're going to optimize and maintain also that target operating model as well. Defining that up front from a strategy perspective, that starts to come into play here. Who's responsible for maintaining and looking after this platform to ensure that the pipelines are running and the data is readily available. I think that's all of my slide. There's just one more slide. So in terms of like the outputs and the objectives of this, what does Microsoft Fabric, offer in terms of an approach when sort of done in that approach? It's increasing productivity, having access to data in a readily and timely manner, improving customer satisfaction, in terms of understanding your customers, their behaviors, the trends, and doing that forecasting that you maybe become more proactive around the use of data and offering more services to your customers like chatbots and so forth. So again, supporting and servicing your customers in that way, reducing the operational costs in terms of managing your data estate, simplified data estate and management around, so consolidating the tools, again, so processing and having that return on investment when you are building out a centralized data repository within Microsoft Fabric. And then you get that increased business performance because data is trusted, it's available, and it can be consumed by the different areas of the business to help that intelligent led approach of being data driven and access to data, really sort of emphasizing the other points above that. So I think that's the last of my slides, and I think I hand back over to you now, Henry.
Yeah, nice one. Thanks, Dan. And we've got a couple of questions, so we'll get to those in a second. And before we do so and close out the webinar, I did want to briefly cover where we're helping our FSI customers today. This slide does do a good job, I think, in kind of illustrating the many services we have across the specific areas of data, from strategy all the way through to how you kind of manage and serve this once live. Dan, I'll lean back on you in a moment, because without doubt, I think the most kind of popular, or certainly currently, and the uptake we sort of see is around, and you mentioned it earlier, ideation, and some of the workshops we specifically have built and put together to help our customers on that front. Yeah, on the next slide, Adam, is just that ideation workshop. And Dan, if you wouldn't be so kind, sorry, to kind of briefly cover the value of this, what we aim to cover during the workshop, and what ultimately the customers will get out of it.
Yep, certainly. And I guess really just sort of summarizing this up, as I sort of mentioned probably on a few slides previous, it's this half-day workshop really is, working in bringing a business together to look at those use cases and understand where we can, prioritize those use cases and pick that one use case maybe to go forward to a Microsoft Fabric pilot, and then having that roadmap, and alongside that roadmap, there's also the other elements to that. So mentioned earlier, target operating model, maybe training requirements, and in capturing that early on, so we understand what the potential roadmap looks like. What do we need to do in order to achieve success, and then obviously from here, it's just having those ideas on a page. And that roadmap forward, it's then having an understanding of the approach, the timelines, the implementation and the investment needed, the funding. I know that we'll go on to that shortly. So really sort of bringing all that forward to help build a business case. So this ideation phase is very popular because it helps, we've seen a lot of traction with customers wanting to use this in terms of bringing their potential use cases and putting it on a page so they can then, use that information, and all that together will help sort of shape and sort of formulate a business case to get the investment to obviously start this, a wider, maybe potentially engagement with Microsoft Fabric.
Thanks, Dan. Really quickly, as I say, we've got a couple of questions. Want to get to that before we do close out. But it's a real important one to mention because so often it's overlooked when we speak to customers that have been on a journey and haven't asked the question around, the programs and the funding available to help offset and de-risk and accelerate some of these projects. So I was really keen to cover this very, very quickly and ensure that I guess you guys are asking the question of your partners. It's our job to understand it. So, if it's a case of, hey, we're doing this, can we get that? Then just ask those sort of simple questions. But as you'll sort of see from this slide, and specifically around the data and AI stream there, from initial workshop, as Dan said, ideation, all the way through to best practice and how we operate and keep things fed and watered. So at every stage of that adoption framework, there are programs available. And as I say, the so what in terms of our partnership is being able to access those programs. So ask the questions, keep asking on that front. I'm sure you'll look great if you can go back into the business and say, hey, we've saved a few quid here on this initial on this piece of work. Questions very quickly. And JB, I have a question specifically for 7am and yourself around, I guess, what the single or certainly the biggest challenge, I guess, for you guys as a business today around data.
No, that's great. I think I kind of heard people say before it's getting buy-in, it's getting people to kind of champion it or something like that. I think we're really lucky because we've got the investment from the all the way up the stack. Our executive committee, the board, our owners and stuff. They're bought into this. Dean, my CEO, is always asking kind of what we're doing around the data, and we have lots of catch-ups on that. I think actually it's getting to the point now, and the ideation things are a great facilitator to this, because then it's now actually prioritizing what we do, actually getting stuff across the line, getting it out to people. There's been a lot of investment in the framework. You guys have, Henry, obviously been involved in the journey with us, getting kind of our platform ready to go. Now, the floodgates have opened. People are coming in. It's like, I want this, I need this, I've got to have this. It becomes mission critical stuff. And then essentially it's just kind of trying to get some of those capabilities out to everybody before, so that they can maybe ideate themselves as well.
Yeah, nice one.
Thank you.
Thanks, JB. And there's another question here just around, more sort of specifically around the technology, I guess. But I think there's a lot out there, and there's a question just around in terms of obviously when is a use case or when is a solution leaning towards a co-pilot or agent-based kind of solution off the shelf, if you like, or into the more kind of customized, natively built using all the OpenAI services. Is there anything to look out for, I guess, on your experience either? And that's open to the floor, Dan, JB, anybody might want to take that one.
Sorry, trying to get off mute there. For me, there's specific kind of contextual things, because it's a heavily regulated industry. So having access to the OpenAI capabilities, I think back to the days where it was things like Cortana Intelligence Suite, and being able to access specific capabilities as well within that, as opposed to Copilot, which can help us with everything, if you like. I think that's the sales tag. Sometimes we need to focus down on something, so it's better to come in and train something more specific for a particular type of model.
Very nice. Thanks, JB. Yeah, no. I would ask either Dan or Saga, but I'm really keen to stick to time, and we'll go on to the 11 o'clock. So with that said, we can go ahead and close the webinar. A big thanks to Sagar, JB, and obviously Dan for helping deliver this. As I say, we will be recording the session, or it has been recorded. We will do an edit and upload and share the slides to everybody in attendance. So thank you very much. Any questions, obviously get in touch with us afterwards. You should have our details. Thank you all.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.